Hello everyone, this is Alex, and today we are talking about orchestral heterophony. Now I'm doing this video because it's crazy how people don't know about this. Nobody used this. John Williams doesn't use this. Thomas Newman doesn't use this. Hans Zimmer, Howard Shore, Alexandre Desplat, Danny Elfman. So why am I talking to you about this today? Well, it's because I think that orchestral heterophony might be a very instinctive way to learn how to orchestrate. A very easy way and inspiring way for any composer or orchestrator to get into orchestral writing. Now you might wonder, like, well, who's this guy on YouTube that's telling us that all the great composers don't use this technique? Well, if I can tell you a little bit about my background here, through my studies at the University of Montreal in music composition, I discovered Gamelan music. There's a great Gamelan there. It is an introduction Gamelan class that's been taught there, and I fell in love with this music and studied it for years, and even came to teach this music at the University of Montreal for a few years. But now as a composer, it's something that I implemented into my own work that I will now be sharing with you. So I'm sharing you my secrets so you can steal them from me. So go ahead and watch the rest of the video. But you might wonder, well, what is heterophony? Well, heterophony, if you haven't heard the word before, you might have heard some of it in some traditional Asian or Middle Eastern music. It's an approach to music writing that doesn't focus on harmony. Instead, it focuses on melodies. But it's not quite like polyphony. You see, polyphony is a way to write that you write multiple melodic lines. So polyphony, multiple melodic lines. And these lines complement each other and then they create some harmony. But heterophony is quite different. In the music, there's only one melody, and this one melody is the main guide for everybody that's playing this specific piece of music. So for instance, in Gamelan music, you got this one melodic line, and everybody is going to be playing different variation of this one single melody. So you see here on my screen is a transcription I did of a Gamelan piece. So that's from a piece called Selat Segara. And it's an introduction melody, and it's a transcription, an Occidental transcription. So Balinese don't really do this type of musical writing. So all of these instruments are mostly metallophones. It's just the only upper line here, which is actually a flute. Suling is a flute. But the rest are all different types of metallophones. Some of them are lower in the register, and some of them are playing a little bit higher. And you see that we got this melody here. So it's do, sol, do, la, do, re, do, mi, re, do. And then it starts over again. So this is the main melody of this piece. So everything else you see here is actually heterophony. Let's have a listen to this specific excerpts. So you see that this line is the main melody, and there's a harmonization of a fifth. These harmonizations are mostly fifths, but they do touch the diminished fifth sometimes, and sometimes even the sixth. But they're all part of this lower line. This is not like a second melody. The upper line here is only harmonization. So let's think orchestration now. This was the main melody played by some of the metallophones, which are in the medium register. So under them, one octave lower, these are the chalungs and the jegogans. The chalungs here are playing the same note here, an octave apart. But see here that they continue the rhythm of half notes. They are not going into quarter notes like this upper part. So you see they are only meeting on the C sharp and on the A. But between these, there's a new note that from the melody actually that's creating a new interval, which is a fifth, which between C and G. But don't misinterpret this. This is not harmony. This is only heterophony. This is only the melody, which is playing at a different tempo, but it creates this interesting encounter. And after that, we get this A coming together, and then the C that's in this melody that's going upward like after that. And then meeting again on the D here. So this creates a sixth, which is another interval that's interesting, but again, not harmony. So this is the basic of at least Gamelan heterophony, which really works like this. Somebody's playing two notes, the other one's playing one note, and they're meeting again at different points in the melody. Now, if we see up here, there's different variations of this melody. Do, re, mi, do, re, do, mi, re, do, re, mi, do, re, do, mi, re, do. We got this C, C, C. We got this C that's varied through here. It always come back on the first beat. So we got here the first beat C, the first beat C, the first beat C, and see that these instruments also use some harmonization with the G, which is used here, and they're also separating the rhythms, which is something specific for the gamelan that I will also incorporate in my example you'll see in a second. But what's the most interesting here is the suling here. The suling is one of the most freer instruments in the gamelan. It's a flute that's flying on top. So we got and you see that even though the melody is the same, the first time is not quite the same as the second time. So there's a kind of form of improvisation with this. And again, the only reference is this main notes. So the C and the G, the C and the G. But other than that, we got new notes here. And this middle instrument, the trompong, is actually a soloist in the middle register that's also doing another variation of that, but with even more little notes here and there. So now that I show you this, let me show you how we can use this as a reference for orchestral writing and how you can create such interesting orchestral sounds. And before we go into the score that I prepared for you today, don't forget to like and subscribe the video and leave a comment if you'd like. I'm always happy to discuss with you. And if you want to support the channel, there's a link down below for membership with tons of content for composers like you. So let's go and have a look at the score I prepared for you today. Okay, so today we're starting off with one of the main themes of Ludwig Göransson from his music for Oppenheimer. I kind of adjusted it a little bit, but this is a melody that's originally being played on a string with like almost no vibrato, and behind there's other stuff. But what was interesting for me here was the melody, and I wanted this heterophony exercise to be based on this. But although we do base this exercise on this melody, you'll see that the orchestration doesn't really have anything to do with the original music from Ludwig Göransson. We're just giving a new context for this melody and to explore this heterophony exercise. So let's have a listen first. So the melody for me was perfect for this because it had this little rhythmic pattern at first that I created for this. And after that was a little bit more like a singing melody. So for this, I started with the violins. So as I showed you earlier with my transcription of gamelan, I did something similar with the rest of the strings. So I started from the lowest line. We have the F sharp here, and the F sharp is even holding past the first measure. But you see that the cello here, an octave higher, is going down with the E. So it's following this one. But this one is even a longer value. So that's something that's very typical of heterophony, and particularly in gamelan music. And this creates an interesting tension between the F and the E. So this creates a seventh. But again, there's not an harmony thing. We just follow the melody in a different at a different pace, and see that the F sharp is repeated here when there's the second violin, and it's following on the B here for the main melody, also with the cello here. But the cello is following with the C sharp, and the double bass is not. It's holding the B. So then this creates a ninth, which is kind of a dissonant interval, but you'll see when we listen to the full string orchestra, it creates something very blurry as a sound, and it's perfect, I feel, for the orchestra, and I use it a lot in my own music. And then again, they come together on the A and on the G sharp. So I wanted the end maybe to be a little bit more precise in that regard. So let's have a look at the viola then. The viola is doing something that's a little bit more orchestral friendly, and it's going through the different notes from the chord. So although heterophony is not a harmonic thing, the melody does suggest maybe a combination of different intervals. So I decided here to go from the F to the C, but just by passing through the G sharp and the A. So it creates kind of a F minor kind of texture, at least in the strings, but you'll see what I do with the rest of the woodwinds afterwards, and you see that we forget about this sense of harmony afterwards. And this pattern is following the melody here, adapting a little bit, but mostly doing kind of the same thing here. And you see here that it's going down on the E. So that's something with heterophony. There's an E a little bit before in the main melody, but this one is presenting it here. So if it was presented a little bit earlier or a little bit after, it's fine if you go touch it. But otherwise, try and stick with the main melody here. But this is a way to add some different intervals that might have been heard a little bit earlier or after in the melody. But then this melody is going up on the A here, which creates a third, and then after that on the B, which was here, and then on the D sharp, again following the melody. And then this one is going up a little bit and then going down back onto the G sharp here. So it's a slight variation of this melody here, and this viola line right at the end is a superb example of heterophony. It's not quite the same thing, but we use some of the notes from here, and we stretch the melody a little bit to make things happen a little bit later on. Now the first violin is another layer, a little bit more rhythmic and fast here. So we are in sextuplet, da-da-ba-dam-ba-dam, ba-dam. So that's something with heterophony. You can do faster rhythm as well. That creates a lot of diversity in your orchestration, because we just have a handful of notes from the melody that we have access to, the F sharp and the C sharp here. So using these notes at different octaves is okay, but to have different rhythm to create dynamism through your orchestration, at least rhythmically, can really help you to create an interesting sound with this technique. So we're just following these notes. These are the same notes from the main melody with a different rhythm, more dynamic rhythm. And then at the end, touching some of these notes from the chord, and then falling back on the C sharp here, and then holding the E up here and presenting the E a little bit before than what's it's written here. So that's something with heterophony. Again, a different version of the melody doesn't mean that the melody must be at front or presenting the notes at first. You can present them before, and this is what the first violin is doing here, an octave higher. And see that I'm going down on the E, which is actually, again, this same note, and then going upward to the G sharp, which is the final note here. So let's just have a listen to just my strings now. So this was the first step for me here. The first three measures to being a little bit more rhythmic, and the fourth measure presenting kind of a slowing down the rhythm until the last three bars that will really slow down and end the music. So after doing this, I wanted to focus on my woodwinds. And especially on this rhythmic part that I wanted to complement with some of my other woodwind instruments. So let's go see what I did for the upper woodwind section. So here's my violin line with my oboes, flutes, and piccolo. And see that the rhythm are complementing each other. This one is going pa-pa-pa-pam, pa-pam, and this one is going ta-tam, pa-pam, pa-pam. This means that we have notes together here, and then here only the flute, and then together here, and then here only the violin, and here only the flute and the piccolo, and then together here on the downbeat, and here only the violin. So this is a complementary rhythm that is often used in gamelan. It's called a kotekan. It is very useful. You have one part that's playing ta-ta, 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 and the other one is playing ta-ta, and ta-ta, and ta-ta. So this creates a kind of a going back and forth rhythm that in an orchestral setting can help you to play things really fast that wouldn't be possible for only one performer, but also to create this kind of space and dialogue between the different instruments. So we got this here, and this is all in sextuplet for the piccolo and the flute as well. The line is going up a little bit on the piccolo, and then touching some of the notes here to go back on the F sharp. But see that the main notes are here, the F sharp and the C sharp. We just add some of the small notes here to create a little bit of extra color. But now the oboe is presenting a different rhythm. Ba-da-da-dum, instead of ba-da-ba-da-ba-dum. So we got this polyrhythmy between the 16 notes and the sextuplets, which helps to create a more dense texture, all basing all this on a melody. Again, the melody is not here anymore. We're just focusing on these rhythms, but the melody is really F sharp and C, and we just enhancing it with more dynamism in the rhythm, using all of these notes, and then repeating the same pattern using the different notes from the melody, and afterwards here, changing it up a little bit and slowing down. Again, I said I wanted my my second part to be slowing down, so everybody's doing longer values. And actually, I decided to bring back my original melody, which was on the second violin here. So you see the F sharp is here, F sharp is here, F sharp is here. But see the B is here. I'm holding the F sharp with the piccolo, and instead of going down on the B, it's going up on the G sharp, which is fine because it's leading to the A here and the B here. The B is coming in really late from the melody, and C it's going to take the C sharp a little bit later than my main melody here. So again, stretching out the melody is really something that's part of this, and that can help you to create interesting interval in your music while still having everything that's tied down to this melody, this first melody that you use. Again, here the C and the A coming down a little bit late, and ending on the G sharp a little bit late right at the end here, at the same time as my first violin here. And see that my oboe is also playing with some of these notes. The F sharp is here, the B is here coming in late, the C sharp is here, the E is coming a little bit late from the main melody, the A is here coming in late again, and the G sharp here. So to me, it's like we have a painting and we're brushing the colors so that they're a little bit spread around. So it's like you have many paintings, like many melodies or many paintings on top of each other and doing this. And it creates a very sense of blurriness. So let's just listen to these couples of instruments. So the piccolos, flutes, oboes, and the violins. So we're starting to have another layer that's going to be very good with our strings, that's going to create a lot more dynamism and add a lot of notes and interval possibilities. And now let's look at the rest of the woodwinds here. So I got my bassoons and bass clarinets, which are doing the same as my double bass and cellos. So this is a no-brainer, but let's see my clarinets now. This part is really cool. This is, again, a kotekan, but a lot more dynamic and continuous. Let's just listen to this one here. So you see that we get really the feel here for complementary rhythms and complementary line. And if you see different notes, fa, sol, la, but see that when I present the G, I present the B, so this creates a third here. So pa-pida, 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 and then pa-pada, 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 complementing this at a really fast speed, which can be played on the clarinet. Can be played, but at some point they have to breathe, right? So pada, 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 pada. This is much easier for a clarinetist to perform. They don't get tired. They can breathe at different points. You have some time to breathe really quickly. But then we got fa, sol, la, and then we got do, si, la. And after that, fa, mi, sol, different types of patterns. So imagine one clarinetist changing always the pattern might be a little bit tricky, but for these guys, it's just two notes. So it creates this very intricate part, and that adds a lot of blurriness again to your orchestration. And it's all based on the melody. You get the F, the C, the F, F, C, F, and then E going down, and then with the D and the C sharp here, and with the F, and at the end they do a line here that's propulsing the pattern to for the last few notes where they play together with the main melody. So that was my way to end this pattern. After that, let's look at my brasses and percussion section. For the brasses, well, it was a music that was to be played piano, so I didn't want to go too crazy with the brass. I didn't use any trombones. I used one trumpet and two horns, so kind of a small orchestral setting, just to create some continuity for the lines of the melody. So again, F sharp and C is here, and then E here with the C sharp, and then continuing on for the last part here. And then doing the full melody, playing the full melody with the second violin for the end, with the trumpet that's playing an octave higher. So giving a little bit more emphasis on the melody at the end. And the first trumpet here is playing the same thing as the second violin. So we got, again, an emphasis on the main melody. Now the harp is playing what the viola is playing. It's common to have in this kind of music doubling, so to reinforce certain parts. So the harp is playing the same as the viola up until almost the end. They're just doing a glissando here. I love glissandos. I love cymbal rolls. I got one here just for the end, just once. Afterwards, we got my glockenspiel, which is doing the main notes on the beat, which is punctuating the main notes on every quarter notes, but again following this original melody, just to add a little bit more brightness and precision in this arrangement. So let's have a listen of this whole arrangement for the piece from Ludwig Göransson from Oppenheimer. So beautiful, right? Heterophony is such a different way to approach composition, and that's what's charmed me when I discovered Gamelan music 15 years ago. You hear at the end of this excerpt how all the lines come together. It's such a powerful tool to have if you're looking for the specific texture, and I strongly encourage you to explore this. If you want to have access to this score and even the MIDI file from it, you can now do so by joining this channel as a member. All the information in the link down below. Now again, thank you for listening, and leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to discuss this further with you. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.